right, here we go. Get set up. Wait for this to kind of get started, get out there, people to start coming in. And getting, what's the other one? My piece is set up over here. All right, so today I wanted to go live with some more Monday motivation and just kind of share with you guys some of the creative pieces and things that I'm working on, just kind of behind the scenes in the studio, and just going in and seeing what I kind of have on the shelf. So this is from the Sculptor's Quest, month number 3, and everything is kind of got plugged in and figured out in the membership. However, the membership is all about coming up with the concept, creating the character, and sometimes, a lot of times, the pieces don't necessarily get finished and molded and casted and painted and all of that within that month. It gets happened at a later time. So I am just trying to catch up on a few pieces, kind of finish them up to that place to where I can get them molded. And so with this, month 3, we had the author and the scribe. So my scribe here is that character that just closes her eyes and just listens and takes everything to heart, takes everything in. It's almost like closing her eyes and people are just writing these words on her that just become stained on her skin. So we have weird, ugly, shame, weak, worthless, what's over here, and then not ready. All of these thoughts and things that either weren't even hers, and a lot of them were just from outside sources, whether it was from random people, whether it was from people that cared about her and were afraid of her, getting hurt, whether it was from friends that didn't want her to kind of get away or grow or leave them behind. These are all words that, instead of questioning them, she took them in and they just became a stain and they just became a part of her. Now, the author, on the other hand, she writes her own story. So what she does is she takes all of these words, she listens, but she doesn't let them necessarily affect her. She says, is this true? Is this me? Puts it through her own personal filter and then decides, okay, what am I going to do with this? So with hers, she still has that same weird marked on her skin. However, she looks at that as a positive, not like I'm weird and different and nobody likes me, but I'm weird, I'm special, I'm one of a kind. And that's why we got unique start. So get started instead of being not ready, we're just going to start and we're going to figure it out as we go along. Strong, powerful, unique. And so now it is just a matter of continuing on. They are 90% finished, just need to do some tweaks. I need to finish up her hair and then kind of go over the piece to see if there's anything else I need to add or tweak before I do the mold for these two characters. And then this one, actually her hair is pretty, so her is just the same thing. Basic cleanup. Her hair, I might go a little bit deeper in, but she is in a good place. And again, she just needs to go into, going over it real quick to see if there's any spots that I need to smooth out or rough up or clean up, just to kind of make sure that they are ready for that mold. Now, these are more rough type of sculptures, and I did want this series to be more like that. I didn't want them too polished. One, because I like, the raw and the rough sculptures a little bit more. I think it's more alive. It's more of an art piece rather than trying to go for super hyper realistic. And it also, holds a lot of the meaning and the craft and the message in these marks that I'm leaving. So that is why a lot of the characters in this story, in this series, get to a pretty good level of completion, but they are still a little rough, and it's all on purpose. So with her, the author writing her own story, she's a little bit different, and I wanted to express that in everything, with the words that she has stained on her, with her little bit of a quirky smile with her tongue out, playful attitude, a little bit different, wild of a hairdo. For this one, I did reference and kind of think about Lisa Bilyeu and, her hairstyle and her wild attitude and just unique character of I am who I am and I'm not changing for nobody. And that's kind of what this hairdo kind of does for me. So now it's just a matter of cleaning them all up, going over and adding a little bit of texture, but really making sure that the edges and everything kind of looks good on the braids that I have going on here. So just zoom in just a little bit. I'm not sure how much is going to kind of come up on camera, but these are the little bits of time to just kind of play around, go a little bit deeper on the characters, catch up on some of the things that we didn't get to. But another thing I also wanted to share with this is even if you don't have a crazy amount of studio time, even if you're not able to put hours and hours into this, you can still make these little blocks of time to where even if you only have 5, 10, 15 minutes, you still can go in, play with the sculpt for a little bit, and then set it aside until the next time you're able to come out there. With water clay, just make sure you're covering it up. Oil-based clay will be fine. You don't have to worry about it drying out. Now, I would suggest definitely having a space or at least setting it out in a place to where when you get to it, you can just go to the sculpt and jump right in and not have to take all this extra time in setting up, just because that creates another roadblock of you saying, well, I want to sculpt, but I only got maybe 5 minutes and, I have to bring all the clay out and I have to bring my sculpture out and I have to do this. And it just becomes a laundry list of things just to get started, and you end up not starting. So if you do have a dedicated space that you can possibly set up, that would definitely be ideal. Even if it is literally like a TV tray that you set in the back corner of a room, or in a basement or in a closet, or a shelf in the closet, and you just pop open a TV tray and you have your sculpture and then your set of tools right there. Pop open the TV tray, plop this on, grab your tools and start messing around. Even, if you want to go a little bit smaller and you're not working on a piece like this, even little to-go kits to where you have a little case. I would do this too when I travel too, is have a little case. You have tools in it. You have maybe a piece of wood just to kind of use as a base to sculpt on. And then you also have a little bit of clay. And then you just kind of play around with it, mush it with your fingers, see what comes out. See if you like the character, see if you like the little thing you're making, or, just scrap it. Either way, just to kind of get yourself into that daily creative habit to where you spend 5 minutes just sculpting or creating. It doesn't even have to be sculpting. You can do a little bit of a drawing, things like that. All right. So I see a few more people popping in here. So right now, just resharing what we're working on. I'm just sharing some studio time about the concept of even if you only have 5-10 minutes, that you can still make a little bit of time for creativity. You can set something up that you can kind of go back to. um, but right now I'm in the studio just working on, this is from month number 3. I have the author here. So this was the hero, and then our demon was this character right here, the scribe. And the story is that the scribe is that character that just was tempted, was just listened to everything that everybody said about her. And it just became stained on her skin. It became a part of her. Whereas my author here, she stood up and she decided for everything of, what does this mean? Is this something that is going to help and define me? Or is this something that I'm not worried about, or I'm not going to allow to affect me? And so now just working on cleaning her up just a little bit to see what I can kind of create, and spend about 10-20 minutes working on her hair, tightening some things up just so that I can get her just a little bit closer to that molding stage. All right. All right, coming along. All right, so as I'm doing this, just kind of looking all over the piece to see what I need to work on or tweak. Now, with hair, the biggest thing is not to worry about detail too soon. Make sure that first you are blocking in those bigger shapes, and that you have kind of a flow to the hair. So with this, even though I did go in and start detailing some of the strands to kind of give it life, first thing is to add all of this as one big massive shape, and then kind of come in and add a little bit of the flow to where some of the hairs break off, some of them kind of stop, and she has like shorter pieces or bangs, and the bigger shapes, just making sure that it kind of all flows nice and smooth, and then come back and take that time to kind of detail some things out, fill in some of the areas, come in and make sure that you have the edges nice and strong, figure out where all this flow goes. Now, I will say that sculpting hair has been a challenge, especially doing all of women hair and the different styles and combinations, and where these freaking braids go. I remember doing a piece for the monster dolls, and her hair was fixed up nice. It basically had a front piece that kind of went in and tucked in, and then it kind of had a side that went into this area, this side kind of flipped up into here, and then it just kind of flowed into each other, but then also came out in the back. And I'm just sitting there looking at these pictures like, all right, I see this comes up and it kind of goes into this area, but where does this hair freaking go? And how in the world does this, like, am I going to kind of like make this work? Oh, and working on Bram Stoker's Dracula piece and doing the hair, the braid that he has for that. That was another monster in itself of trying to figure out where those pieces went and, making it look even and also, work together, but then still trying to figure out where everything went and how I got everything to flow. That was another one that you just kind of, you have to take your own artistic license to simplify, but still make it look cool and, flow and go together and give enough detail. But at the same time, there was just so much going on. All right, so keep going with this. Now I have done a little bit with her. I'm going to bring my other character up here in just a moment. Let's see what we can do with it. Just kind of cleaning up this shoulder, doing one final pass. Now, she's still going to need a little bit more cleanup, but I'm doing little at a time. Just as I kind of see what needs to be kind of worked on and cleaned up. Now, her, I believe she's almost at that finished level, and the main thing I need to do is do kind of a once-over to where I kind of sand down or smooth out certain edges or areas that kind of aren't working for me. Now, I believe the scribe is at a similar place. Now, here is the other thing that's going on with this character is if you look at it, lower this just a little bit. Now, it might blend out a little bit, might not be on the camera, but she is a little bit rougher than my author. Now, as I was making this, I did definitely like that because I look at this as she is a character, but a sculpture that is still being built. There are still pieces being added to her. And so she hasn't grown into who she is going to become. Now, all of this is definitely slowing her down and taking her into the wrong direction. But she still has hope, and she is in a place to where she's still rough. She isn't smoothed out. I think that with my author character back here, to where she has defined a little bit more of herself, and she's comfortable with who she is, knows who she is, and all of those rough edges are smoothed out and they are figured out. Now with her, she's still in that phase to where she can be manipulated, she can be moved, tweaked. And so I'm looking at this and, I'm going to find a few spots that, kind of look weird or don't match, but I like the rough texture of it. Now, I will say that even though something looks rough doesn't mean it's unfinished or less work. Making things look rough when you actually do it actually takes a good amount of work, and almost as much, if not more sometimes, than getting a perfectly smooth or a realistic character, just because of the nature of you're going in, making sure all of the forms are right and getting it smoothed out, but then you're adding in that rough texture back again. And then you're doing multiple passes of, making sure that there's no really weird areas to where it looks like you gave up and you stopped and you didn't care about it versus it's a rough texture, you know? So I'm going around and I'm going to spend about another 5, maybe 10 minutes working on this and seeing where I can go, where I can bring her. Like some of these, like some tool marks you like, some of them look weird and don't really match what you're trying to go for. And so that's what I got to kind of work on and mess with in this phase. However, she's definitely almost there, so she will be able to get molded soon and ready to go. Let's see, clean this up. There we go. Yeah, so she is in that place to where she is still forming all of these words, these thoughts have kind of shaped her into who she is at this moment and kind of put her down that path. Cool. All right, so now we're getting somewhere. Now, as I'm going in, this is also, some of the other demons we face, like the perfection demon in the second month. He was all about really going in and taking out any rough edges, any fingerprints, anything like that. And it just kind of, his goal was to kind of take the soul away from the piece and take out any character, any trace of a human touch. And so as I'm working on this, I want to keep that in mind as well, to where I want to make sure that I do not lose that quality either. And here and there, I'll notice there are few gaps, little places in the clay to where I need to connect them to the sculpture a little bit stronger. I don't want any areas to where they're too deep of an undercut or silicone gets up in there and rips the piece. So this is kind of that once over to where you're like, all right, well, this is almost ready for molding. I need to figure out what I need to do, what I need to make sure is good for her, and if there's anything else I need to clean up and work on as she is getting ready to be molded. However, still keep that roughness and try not to go overboard and over render or over fix. So All right, so I think I'm going to call it for tonight. That is a good place to be. So I did go in and kind of work on a few different pieces, but this is just a little bit of behind the scenes I want to share with you guys and share a few thoughts as I'm working on finishing up, cleaning up some of the pieces from a couple months ago, and just trying to see what I can do and what I need to do to bring these characters to completion so that I can get them molded and ready to go. All right, so here we go. Thank you guys for watching. Take a look at some of my other videos. Go a little bit deeper if you are interested. Leave a comment and check out some of my links to check out the Sculptor's Quest. Every single month we are going on a hunt for a new personal demon and unlocking a new inner hero. So facing those monsters that are sitting on your shoulder, just whispering those horrible thoughts. And then we are going to unlock that special inner side of you that's going to help you battle that inner demon that you have. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. I'm shooting for doing these every Monday, kind of start your week off, get you guys motivated, ready to go.